It's not becoming something that we're not. It's not transforming ourselves. It's not changing ourselves. It's literally a remembering of what we are. But at the moment of this remembering, if this remembering is authentic, it's not viewed as a personal thing. There's really no such thing as a personal awakening, because personal would imply separation. Personal would imply that it's the me or the ego that awakens or becomes enlightened. But in a true awakening, it's realized very clearly that even the awakening itself isn't personal. It's the universal spirit or universal consciousness that wakes up to itself. It's not the me that wakes up. Actually, what we are wakes up from the me. What we are wakes up from the seeker. What we are wakes up from the seeking. And so this awakening is essentially very different than what we're often taught spiritual awakening is. There's a lot of confusion about what spiritual awakening is, what enlightenment is. So I think it's important that we clear some of this misunderstanding up. One of the greatest misunderstandings about awakening or enlightenment, that it is some sort of mystical experience, that it's some experience that's akin to union with God, or merging with the environment, or dissolving into the ocean when you're looking at the beach and the sunset is beautiful and all of a sudden you just sort of merge into the environment. It's also different than all of a sudden having a tremendous amount of cosmic insights into the whole way the whole universe is constructed, and into the inner workings of the nature of what we think is reality. I could go on, but essentially what's important to realize that spiritual awakening is very different from a mystical experience. Mystical experiences are beautiful. They're really in many ways the highest experiences that a me can have. They're the most pleasurable experiences that a me can have. Because a me is always seeking, the ego is always seeking union. It's always seeking closeness, even though it's afraid of it, and at times being repelled by it. But essentially, the ego is always reaching out, wanting closeness. And many of the spiritual practices that people engage in are actually meant to produce some of these mystical kind of experiences, whether those experiences are experiences of merging, or they're visionary experiences where we have visions of Mother Mary or the Buddha or Jesus or Allah or who knows what. The practices expand our consciousness and we feel like we are expanding through space and time. And on. Or a lot of these spiritual practices may seek to activate the essential energy within us, sometimes called the Kundalini. And this energy can be activated and start course through our system, and it can have some extraordinarily pleasurable effects. That is, if everything goes right. Very often when someone actively and assertively activates this innate, deep root energy, this Kundalini energy, the mere act of sort of forcing it awake or forcing it into the open will actually create a lot of problems in the energetic system. But one can have deep Kundalini experiences, deep energetic experiences, pleasurable or unpleasurable, and these aren't really ultimately the same as awakening. Again, I'm not saying they have no value. I'm not saying that they aren't transformative, because they often are transformative. Mystical experiences can change the structure of the egoic self to a radical degree, and in many times in very, very positive ways. So in the relative world of things, they have a value. But when we're talking about spiritual awakening, we're talking about something that is essentially awakening from the me. It's not really, certainly not initially, it's not really about transforming the me or changing the me. It's not concerned with the me having a better experience. It's literally a waking up from the dream of me. It's going from one paradigm to a completely different paradigm. It's as if going from one world to another world. I don't mean to imply that someone who's awake doesn't see the same world that you see. When you see a chair, someone who's awake sees a chair. If you see a car, someone who's awake sees a car. It's not that we see things differently necessarily, but the difference is when one is truly awakened, when they've really gone beyond the veil of the illusion of duality and separation. What's perceived is everything that looks different and distinct actually in its essence is the same. That everything we perceive, everything we see, everything we feel, everything we hear is literally a manifestation of the same thing. What that thing is can't be described. We call it God. We call it the Tao. Some would call it consciousness. Some would call it the ultimate nature of awareness. A Buddhist would call it Buddha nature, and on and on. There's many, many names for the unspeakable, for the unexplainable. But spiritual awakening really reveals that that which is unspeakable and unexplainable is actually what we are. It is the unspeakable. It is spirit itself that wakes up. This is really important to understand in spiritual awakening.